Welcome to the Next 7 Days podcast series, where we break the season down into week-by-week segments, bringing on a new guest hunter every week that specializes in their time frame. We're starting off at September 14th and running to November 30th, covering every segment of the season, starting with early season into the October lull, into the rut and the secondary rut. So let's get ready to hunt the next 7 days with Scott Buckley. Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, coming in your ear holes with the next episode of the Next 7 Days series. And we're talking with Scott Buckley this week from October 19th to 26th. This is an incredible time to hunt whitetails. Scrapes will be on fire. We cover a lot of that in this episode, along with how Scott has been so successful on public land, on his own private land, him killing deer, his family killing deer in Iowa. And kind of Iowa has a special thing going on this time of year. So you guys are going to enjoy this episode. I appreciate you tuning in. Let's get into the people that make this possible. Starting up with Exodus Outdoor Gear. Guys, it's a little late in the game to be switching arrows, but if you're you already shot a couple deer and you're running low on arrows and you want to change, now's the time to switch to the new MMT line from Exodus. They're tailor-built arrow. They're going to tailor-build it to your draw weight, your bow, your draw length, the bow you're shooting, your poundage, and the grain of head that you're shooting, and make you a perfectly built arrow. My arrows are shooting flat all the way out to 60 yards with my bow, and I'm shooting a 65-pound draw bow. There's no flare in them at all. They're straight as an arrow, as they say. So I'm blown away by them and the performance that they've had. Also, if you're looking in the market right now, is a perfect time to get another cell cam in the game. Those scrapes are going to be popping. If you got a cam or an area that you just want to know what is on this scrape right now, the Exodus Render is your best bang for your buck, that you know you're going to get a 5-year cell cam, 5-year warranty. If anything happens to that in 5 years, you're going to be able to get a replacement cam, and you're going to get something that is guaranteed to work out there no matter what the elements are. Secondly, we got Afflictor broadheads. I'm going to be shooting the K2. Like I said, I mentioned on this podcast a few times now. I'm very excited to actually send these through a deer. I know a lot of people already having huge success for them. But just if you're interested in the K2, there's multiple people, including the Exodus Outdoor Gear, that did a ton of broadhead testing with these broadheads. This is my first year shooting a fixed blade in a long time, and I'm really excited to see what it does to the deer, and now I have no worries about deflection or anything like that while I'm shooting the K2. Quick shout out for my boys over at Next Level Deer Supplements. If you guys are looking for any deer supplements, any grain, protein feed, soybean blocks, or mineral, look up Next Level Deer Supplements. That's some good guys over there. Scott and Nate, really good friends of mine. And also, if you're looking for a new bowstring, check out 330archery.com. All right, let's get into the show. All right, we got Scott Buckley on to talk to us about October 19th to the 26th. I know you've killed a lot of bucks in this time frame, and I'm really excited to get to chat to you about this time of the year.
And it's getting to be that time of year again. I'm really excited. It should be a good year. A lot of activity out there, so.
Yeah.
What do you got going on tonight, Cody?
Yeah, this time of year you've had a ton of success. That's why when we made this series, like I said, your last episode did so well with us. I enjoyed talking with you so much. And just year after year success, I wanted to talk to you about that specific timeline. So October 19th through the 26th, what are the bucks doing this time of the year?
Everybody kind of talks about the October law. You can believe it or not believe it. In my opinion, if you take a super unpressured area, things go on as normal, but most people in the real life hunt, pressured areas, public land, of course, is usually always pressured, even most private land pieces. So the bucks are going through like a little transformation period where I don't know how to explain it, but they're kind of holding tighter that time of year before everything busts loose. And just another, after another week in 27, 28, they really start hitting scrapes heavy. But during this week, I guess, you got to get tight to bedding. You just, that's how I've killed most of my bucks this time of year is, find where they're bedding, either, from past history, camera work, tracks, whatever it takes. Find where they're bedding and get on top of them, because they're not going to move far. That time period right there, October 19th, 26th, they're not. I mean, they might come out. Some of the bucks I shot have been out hour before dark, but I've been right on top of their bedroom. I mean, usually I can think of 3 bucks right now. I've been within 100 yards of their beds. In fact, one I kind of seen get up. I can't believe I got in the tree stand, and he was, all of a sudden I seen him stand up over there. I'm like, wow, where the heck did he come from? But yeah, you got to be close to their beds, as what I can say. They're and kind of get on their exit routes out of their bedding area, which, through scouting or even e-scouting, you kind of tell, their bedding areas and where they're going, if there's an egg field off in the distance
So they're not they're not moving a bunch, but they are still moving, tight to their bedding area. Like you said, towards the end of the month, you get some cold weather, those scrapes or towards the end of this period, the scrapes are going to start firing up. But towards the beginning of it, that 19th time frame, if it's not a cold front, they're not going to move much out of the bedding is what I've seen.
Yeah. And that's when I've killed. Just off the top of my head without thinking, I've killed 3 pretty big ones in that time frame. That's, I think, I know the one was a cold front. I killed a 170. That was a cold through. And he was out of his bed an hour earlier. He came out of the cedar thicket. He was in a cedar thicket, and I was on the edge of it, and there was a cornfield. I mean, this cornfield, his bedding area, and there was like a 50-yard area of hardwoods, and then he was in the corn. I mean, that's how tight this cornfield was to his bedding. He came out an hour and a half, and it was a cold north wind. That time of year where I'm hunting, it can be, still 60s, 70 on a bad week, and you got a 50-degree cold front come through, you better get on it.
Yeah.
Because them big ones are going to be on their feet. Cold fronts in October are magical, and same as these other 2 bucks. Yeah, the one actually, I was walking into a hunting spot. I had an early muzzleloader tag, and he I watched him. I was walking in. I was running late. I watched him get up out of his bed along a creek and shot him at like 6. Well, he went down this little ravine, like it was I don't know, like a lagoon or, water. It wasn't very deep, probably 3 feet across. And he waited for what did I just see? He's only like 75 yards away or so, and I just waited, kind of snuck in a little closer, nothing. It's over 10, 15 minutes. Snuck in a little closer. All of a sudden, I seen him come up on the other bank, and he ended up scoring 162 inches,
Man.
And I shot him.
Heck,
but, he came right out of his bed, and so, that's what you got to concentrate on.
Okay,
close to their bed.
So going over that, what is your absolute perfect setup for this? Your perfect setup, the wind, the weather, the time. What would be, if you could pick a day that would be magical for you, what would it be?
I kind of went over this a little bit in my first, talk, but perfect setup, right on top of their beds, their bedding area, play the wind, cold front, play the wind. Mediocre wind, 10, 12 mile an hour wind would be perfect, enough to cover your sound to get into these stands that close to their bedding area is perfect. On a still night, it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Time, I like evening hunts then. Get in there.
Get in there,
You
get
don't
tied
have
to
to
their
sit all
bed.
day that time of year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to sit all day. Just kind of get in there a couple hours, 2-3 hours for dark, and
Set it out
get
and see if
set
he
up.
shows.
Yeah, exactly. But
So how much intel is it going to take you at this time of year to go in on a buck? Are you going to need, a trail cam picture of him in daylight, maybe a sighting, or if you know a buck's in there bedded and you got a cold front, are you going to go in there and try him, or what would it take?
yeah, camera intel is huge. Back it up a bit. History. A lot of my spots on public, I've just started to build up history over time, but a lot of guys don't have that option. You just, guys that hunt state to state. If it's finding a big track in an area while you're scouting, digital scouting, find the bedding areas. But yeah, for me, some of my areas I hunt, year after year, and I'll run my cameras most of the summer and just kind of, I know where the bedding areas are. And if I pick up a big one, like 170, I shot that one year in that time frame. I had pictures of them in there. Nothing recent, but I had them in there like late summer. I think even after he shed, I had some maybe middle of September, late September, kind of in that same area within a few hundred yards. I had pictures of him, so I knew he was, and I know the buck's preferred bedding areas in that area. In fact, two of them bucks I talk about are in the same general, within a few hundred yards of each other. I know there's two good bedding areas. One's a big cedar thicket, and one's kind of along the banks of a river, But yeah, if I have camera intel or guys that don't have that, look for big tracks. That's a perfect scenario because there's a river right there, so you can, if you want to scout and not, get up and booger up the woods or timber in there. You can walk up and down these rivers, and look for big tracks. If you see big tracks in the trail, and there's a bedding area or a thick area in there,
You got a
get
good
on
idea
them.
where to start for sure.
Yeah, because a lot of times they'll bed along the rivers, and
yeah, you kind of touched on this, hunting the evenings mostly, but are you hunting any mornings at this time of year?
everything's situational. It kind of depends on the area. If I can get into an area, a lot of these areas I can't get into without risk of boogering it.
Yeah.
I mean, this spot, if I had a river and I stayed down in the river, this is pretty shallow sometimes a year. If I could stay down in it, not make a lot of noise, I'm not leaving scent and pop up out of that riverbank. One of my best stands is right along the river. I'm popped up and I'm in it. If you can get in, they're bedding in through there, but it's very tough. Now, big timber, hill country, that's a little different. Sometimes, if you can get, if the ag field's half a mile away or a quarter mile even, and it's a cold front, I wouldn't do it without a cold front, because if they get up into their beds early, especially in hill country. But if you can, if it's cold front, if it's 25 degrees that morning, your winds are right, you slip up like on a finger where they're going up into their bed, that's a perfect scenario right there. Not that time of the year, but I killed one of my biggest deer October 3rd, kind of the same situation. Cold front for that early in the year, I think it was 25 degrees. The ag fields were down below quarter mile. I got down in a kind of a half-dry creek bed, a little bit of water. I circled the finger, got my scent down in the creek, circled it, got up in a stand that I preset earlier, and 8:20 in the morning, here comes 170 some inch buck. I'm working up that finger. He come from the ag fields. It was a cold front morning, so he was taking his time, browsing, eating acorns, and let him have it at like 25 yards. Heard him crash, but
Nice.
that was, yeah.
So
I mean, it worked out so perfect. Yeah, he crossed my tracks too. He had to cross in that creek, but I stayed in the creek. There probably wasn't much
sense.
Normally a buck would smell that and booger out of there, but yeah, I was down in the creek and never picked up my tracks probably. And so yeah, that's what I would do in the morning. I mean,
if you can get in
way
there
up
and
in deep,
it's situational, there's a cold front, you might throw a hunt on them in the morning in the bedding area. All right, let's do the fun part of the show, the would you rather. You kill a 150-inch buck with 3 years of history or a random 165-inch buck?
Probably random 106, random scenario is real cool and interesting when I don't know he's there.
I would take the 165 random buck too, because you're in there after a 150, and then a random bigger buck comes in. That's the exciting thing about public land, man. You don't know what's on there. It's big, and a lot of deer can move around. So shoot 170 this year, but you got to miss the next 2 bucks that you shoot out after that.
No, I think I'd pass.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like, I know a miss is coming eventually for me, but I'm like, oh man, it's going to be devastating when it finally happens. So
yeah, for guys that haven't shot one, I would say 90% of people would take the 170, but I've got a few on my wall, so I definitely don't want to miss no buck. So I'll
you take the solid 165 buck and shoot the next 2 170s.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, last one. A week of rain during this time of the year in the season, or a week of hot temps?
I'll take the rain any day. I can't. Nothing I hate worse than hot weather. It's a nightmare. All seasons, early season rut, just shut down a rut.
It just shuts down everything.
Yeah, I don't mind a light rain if you have the gear. Light rain. I hate heavy rain, of course, but if it's light, I'll get out there and no problem. Now, that's where I'll cheat. Maybe go sit on my property because I got some hunting shacks out there. I won't be going to public land if it's heavy rain. I'll go sit in a shack with a roof. But if that's just if it's heavy. If it's a light misty rain, I don't mind it at all getting out and done. If it's even a few days or whatever, I'll sit out in it as long as it isn't pouring. But
yeah, I'm the same way. I kind of like that light rain, stopping, starting.
Yeah.
I think that really gets them fired up this time of year, especially to hit those scrapes. We've had really good success doing that this time of year.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So towards the beginning of this, the 19th time frame, I know that you're on the bedding. The end of it, the 26th, are you starting to transition to scrapes at that time, or are you still focusing on the bedding?
Yeah, definitely. That's about when they start hitting scrapes pretty good is, 20. I mean, it's all kind of cold fronts if they're out and about, but yeah, they'll start hitting the scrapes pretty heavy.
Yeah, it seems like that
towards the end of that
21st,
period.
22nd for us, they start checking those doe bedding areas at night and really hitting those scrapes. And then it seems like towards the end of the time frame, some bucks kind of start sucking a little bit more towards that doe bedding area to kind of keep an eye at them, and that's a good time to really kill one of those bucks. I killed one the 27th October last year going in to work a scrape. And a lot of people tell it like they were on a scrape, and they're like, how do you know if it's really, really hot? And you can smell if a scrape's hot. You can just smell that buck on that scrape. You're like, man, this thing is getting worked. It's, it just reeks of buck.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I can walk through an area and just all of a sudden you smell that and start looking around. It's you'll find a scrape or
Yeah, and
there was just a buck in the area.
there's
You can
something
smell that
about
right.
that when you get that initial woof of that buck. You're like, oh man, it's the rut's coming. I get really fired up when I get that first rutted buck up. Smell out there. I'm like, oh yeah, it's getting close. We're getting about to be in the good stuff. So,
Yep.
last thing here. Go ahead.
The same thing there. I mean, the closer you are to bedding towards the end of that week, if you can get on bedding and scrapes, they're going to make scrapes a lot of time coming out of their bedding. I mean, there's not a more perfect scenario towards the end of that week. There's a scrape. They're coming right off their bed and checking that scrape on their way out. So.
That's how I killed that buck last year. It was early, came right off his bed, went right to J-hook into that scrape, and then October 15th, I killed a buck. Seen him stand up out of his bed, probably 95 yards away, walk 30 yards, hit a scrape, and then walk right to me to feed on the acorn flat. And they hit that scrape. There's a cold front, get a little fired up. They like to hit that scrape. And like you said, a lot of times they have a scrape pretty close to their bedding that they like to hit right away. It's like what they do. They wake up, stretch, and go hit that scrape, and then go through their nightly program or what they do. But if you could find a scrape close to that bedding, like you see, that's a fatal thing for big bucks this time of year.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely.
All right, last thing here. If there's one thing you could tell someone, this time of year to make them more successful, what do you think it would be?
Go back to springtime scouting, just marking every scrape, every bedding area. Find all your bedding areas, in the spring, or if you can't do that and you're out of state or whatever, just e-scouting. Find them bedding areas and just find the exit routes out of them and hunt the wind and back to that week you have to be pretty close to bedding. So yeah, I pre-scout all that if I can, and whether it be e-scouting or boots on the ground, nothing can beat that. And
yeah. So really focus on the bedding that time of year and focus on that stuff that you found, last year that you're thinking, man, there's a big deer in here. There's big deer sign, and make a move on it that time of year.
Yeah. Yeah. Like kind of where we've been going back to, setting up on bedding areas that time of year, year after year, I got spots, big bucks will be, even though that buck gets killed or whatever that year, there's them spots that are just the perfect bedding area. A big buck will take over that spot every year, whether he be high scoring or just an old mature buck, there's usually a big mature deer in there. So like if you're in there in the spring and see huge rubs all over, that spot where I killed the 170 I talk about so much in that week span in that cedar thicket, you go in there, I mean, there's just giant rubs the size of my legs all over through there year after year. And if you're out spring scouting and see that stuff, that's a bedding area. You see the beds all over, and you learn so much from that spring scouting. So I got friends from Michigan that, guy's been waiting 5 years to put in, and then he's been out here 2 other times. I keep telling him, come out in the spring. You can learn so much, but he never comes out. He just shows up out here. He has 5 years to do it. It takes 5 years to draw an Iowa tag now.
That's
and
crazy.
You learn so much off spring scouting. If he'd have came out in the spring, found a bunch of rubs in a bedding area, come back. If he's hunting that week, sat up there and cold front, he's a dead buck. If you play the cards right.
For sure. Well, I appreciate you coming on and chatting with us. Hopefully by now you already got a buck down and celebrating over another 170. I know you'll be out there especially this time of the year, putting in the work to get it done.
Yep. Cool. Good luck, everybody, and good luck to you, Cody.
Yep, appreciate it.
Put down a big one. So
gonna try. Yep. Well, there you have it. The 19th through the 26th. Absolute fabulous time to get out there and hunt. Appreciate Scott for coming on, chatting with us real quick. Like I said, I'm trying to keep these short and digestible. I know that it's season's ramping up here, hardcore. Everybody wants to get in the woods. Hopefully you're on your way to your stand. You can pop this in. You can listen to this real quick. Maybe make a plan, change a plan, and you kill your target buck. That's the goal of this series. That's the goal of this podcast right now, is to bring you as quick, as effective, tactic-driven episodes as I can. Just so you have it on the radar, my vacation is coming up very quickly, October 31st through the 14th of October. I'm going to be releasing a podcast every single day to let you know what I'm doing out there, what I'm seeing, if I have any encounters, if I kill anything. I'll be hunting all day, coming back, recording a podcast, letting you know what I got going on and what the bucks are doing out there. So I'm excited to launch that, the Buck Out or Bust series, where I did it 2 years ago and people absolutely loved it. So I did it with homie then. I'm going to do it by myself this year and just embrace the grind of hunting and podcasting for 15 days there. So be on the lookout for that. Like always, I really appreciate you guys tuning all the way into the end. If you could leave me a review, that'd be great wherever you're listening. Let me know what you think about the show. And the amount of messages I'm getting in. I'm whitetail talking with a ton of folks right now about shooter bucks or what they got going on, and I love it, guys. Keep the messages coming in. Don't ever feel like you can't get a hold of me. I'm an absolute nobody out in a garage recording an episode to release to you guys. So don't feel like you can't message me anywhere on social. I'll get back to you. Sometimes Facebook, man, those Facebook notifications, sometimes I don't get those for a while, so I might hit you back in 3 or 4 days, but it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because I didn't see it, and I'm just finally getting to them. But Instagram, they rip right away. So, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. Like always, I love you guys to death. Love you guys for supporting the show. Always try to do the right thing. Be some good human beings out there. Kill your target buck this week, and try to leave a legacy. And Whitetail Legacy is out.